Marketer of the Day number 434, Virtual Assistant Secrets. Focus on growing your business and build a team that runs on autopilot with Andrea Rozman. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. We're talking right now with Andrea Rozman, and 10 years ago, Andrea stepped out of the corporate IT and project management world and into small business where she works with people from all backgrounds: lawyers, digital marketers, business coaches, investment bankers, and more. Andrea and her team of virtual assistants help relieve the stress of business ownership by doing all the odds and end tasks needed so entrepreneurs and small business owners can focus on growing their businesses. So glad to be talking to you today, Andrea.
I am so glad to be here, Robert. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So yeah, tell me about this. Tell me, what we need to do as far as like outsourcing and delegating, and how you and your team can help.
Well, hiring a virtual assistant is a tough task. It's something that shouldn't be taken lightly, and a lot of business owners, I think they're on the fence sometimes. Some people think that they can't afford a virtual assistant, and some people just don't even want to. They don't want to deal with it. It's hard to deal with somebody that's remote, that you can't see and physically interact with. So I like to tell people, if you're going to consider hiring a virtual assistant, start early on. Think about what you want them to do. I've had people contact me and just send me an email like, "Hey, can you do this project?" Sure. They're sending me money immediately. They haven't had a talk with me. It's so fast because they're so desperate to get help, and nobody really wants to be in that situation. You don't want to find yourself desperate for help, because then you're going to make a bad choice on who you hire for helping.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And there's a bunch of things like I hear this over and over again, that like I need to do more outsourcing, or need to, have virtual assistant for all these little things that like we tell ourselves that, oh, I can put in a few minutes here and there and do these things. But it's like, then that distracts from the real money making stuff. And then there's time spent switching gears and those kinds of things. And so every now and then I kind of jump back into things, and I get better about outsourcing. And I'm always surprised at like how cheap it is. I always kind of imagine that I'd have to sacrifice over half of my profits. And turns out like hiring someone is just $100 or a couple $100 even for the whole month. And then I tell myself also that, maybe I'll be giving up some of the control of the business to someone else. And I guess in a way that you are, but then it seems like there's like just new things to learn in order to kind of handle or manage these people. Is that about right, or is that on the right track?
It is definitely on the right track. The hardest thing to do is to let go of tasks. And new business owners especially, and I fell into this too when I started, we all have a mindset that we have to do it all. I know how to do everything, and I'm the only one that's capable of doing it to get the work done. And I completely say that from experience. And that's a big struggle. You have to be able to release tasks so that you can focus on growing your business. You don't need to be answering the phone to tell somebody what your business hours are. You don't need to respond to a client request for, "Hey, can you schedule me at Monday at 2 a.m. or whatever." That's the type of thing that somebody else should be doing so you can focus on your big goals. And it's really hard to let go and hand off that work to somebody else in the beginning. But once you do, you just breathe this sigh of relief, because you can finally do what you really want to do, and that's grow your business.
Well, great. And so you mentioned handing off tasks to someone else, so that way you don't have to always be checking things or always be spending all this time on the maybe somewhat important things, but not the most profitable tasks. So what kinds of tasks are we talking about? Because it seems like everyone has a different idea of like what a virtual assistant is and what kind of things they do. So like what sorts of tasks, or what's like the low hanging fruit to hand off to these VA people?
That depends on the individual business. And it's funny that the whole idea of a virtual assistant now, it's kind of becoming that term has kind of been taken over by Siri and Alexa. So when people say, hey, I'm looking for a virtual assistant, they're thinking of a technology device. But really, a virtual assistant is just somebody, it's a human being doing your business work from home, and they're doing it, you may not ever see them. In all the clients I've had, I've only ever met one in person, and that's over a decade. So, but as far as what people can hand off, it really depends on what don't you want to do? What are you wasting your time on that could be better spent elsewhere? There are specific VAs that just do social media. And there are VAs that will do content management for your site. They'll do blog posting, keep your website up to date. There are VAs that are bookkeepers. It really depends on what you need. And in the beginning, with a lot of my clients, when I first speak with them, they're frazzled, which again that's not the first place to start, because they have so much going on. And can you do this? And can you do that? And sometimes you just have to start with one thing. What one thing do you want to let go of? And it can be something easy. Hey, could you just manage my email for me for customer service? Absolutely. Now you don't have to think about that anymore. And even if it's just 1 hour a week, now you've gained 52 hours in a year. What could you do with 52 hours right now? And now multiply that by an hour a day. And you've gained so much just by offloading such a simple task.
Well, great, and that's a great way of looking at it. So basically, you're saying look at the tasks that we ourselves do, and we're all kind of overworked, or the schedule's packed or whatever, and we look at the tasks we don't want to do. So in your example, you said, well, if answering emails and doing email support and things like that is just too much work, then hire someone to do that, but not to completely take it over, just to jump in for 1 hour a week, just to see how much time that we save. And then that way, if we see that, that's kind of an easy way to jump in, and we get encouraged, and then we can ramp it up. Is that about right?
Absolutely. When people first hire virtual assistants, they're really unsure of how it's going to go. And a lot of times a lot of people think, well, it's not really a good place to put my money. But you don't realize how much time you gain by hiring someone just part-time. I like to give the example, if you're a business owner and let's say you own a fast food restaurant. Well, you open at say 9 a.m. and you close at 9 p.m. And in that time, you have to hire your customer service people, your drive-through people, your cooks, your cleaners. And they're there throughout the day, whether you have a customer or not. And you have to pay them all the time. But with a virtual assistant, if that fast food place was staffed by virtual assistants, you would only pay them when they were serving a customer, or when they were actually doing physical work, frying a hamburger or cleaning a bathroom. That's a huge difference in finances. And I think everyone can see it that way, and can equate that there's a lot of value in that.
Right. So it's like anytime I'm not just paying someone if nothing's happening. Anytime
Right.
I'm paying something, that's to get the time back that I otherwise would have spent doing something else.
Absolutely.
So as far as like the psychology side of things, to like get ourselves kind of motivated to get that time back, do you suggest that people like track their time or write anything down just so that we have an idea of how much time we're saving? Or do you think people will just kind of feel the time coming back?
I think Um, I think it's always a good idea to track time. Because of what I do, I track everything for everyone. I'm constantly on the clock in some way, and it is a great idea, even if you just do it for a week, to track your time to see where you're spending your time and where it could be better spent.
And then when people kind of see maybe for a week how things are going and where that time can be better spent, and they say, all right, you've convinced me, I'll hire someone to put in a few hours there. And then now we're kind of at the stage where, like you said, people are afraid of trusting someone new, or worried that there might be like some kind of training period or growing pains.
Right.
So how do we get over that? If we say, I hate answering all these emails, I'd like to hire someone to do it, but then now I'm like, well, what do I even tell the person? What kind of instructions do I give the person so that they can do that job?
Instructions are hard. For the most part, a lot of clients, because they're doing everything themselves, they just do this. Um, there has to be a time for, I don't want to necessarily say training, but let's sit down and I'm going to show you how my business functions, and then you're going to be able to jump in and do it. There are a lot of virtual assistants out there, and only a few are going to fit well with you. So, uh, even before the training and the hiring, you want to take the time to interview properly and research your VA so that you're getting the one that fits you. I will always say I am the best virtual assistant out there, and my team is fantastic, but we may not be right for everyone. So it's really, even if you were hiring for a brick and mortar business, you want to take the time and do your research and uh, interview this person through email and through the phone. And if you can do video chat, and if they're local, go ahead and meet with them so that you get a better idea of their skills, so that you know if they're going to fit well with you. And then that really makes training and ramping them up so much easier.
Okay, so in this interview process where it might be like email, phone, video, in person, whatever we can do, and a little bit of research, are we like just getting a feel for them and seeing if they seem to have a good work ethic and seeing if the personalities fit, or are we looking for specific things, or what are we doing here?
Well, let's say it's a little bit of everything. Let's say you wanted to hire just a general secretary VA. The first thing you're going to do, you're going to post your job. There are job sites for virtual workers. You can post it on Indeed or Craigslist, wherever. You're going to get emails and resumes. I do a lot of interviewing for one of my clients. And so we have a really huge process, but it works because we make sure we get the best people for his team. In the job posting, he asks a couple of questions, just arbitrary questions. If they don't answer them properly, then he doesn't forward them on in the process. So just simple things. Are there spelling errors in their resumes? That's a good telltale sign that that may not be someone you want doing communications for you. After that, when you're on the phone interviewing them, you want to have a series of questions based on your the criteria you need. If it's, for bookkeeping, what do you do? What software do you use? Tell me about yourself. Why did you apply for this job? All of these questions are important, and when someone is right. You have to go with your gut sometimes. Everybody can look good on paper. We can all look fantastic. But when you're starting to have actual communication verbally, you get a feeling for what people are saying and how they're saying it, and you'll be able to make connection if they're going to be right for your business.
So do you have any tips on how to make this process not take forever, because I can imagine that maybe some people kind of do too much research or looking at too many candidates and get overwhelmed, or maybe they're saying, I'm not interviewing people fast enough, so now it's like 3 weeks later. I needed this done yesterday. So
Right.
any tips on kind of doing this interview process the correct way?
Well, start to hire a virtual assistant before you need a virtual assistant. So when you are doing your daily work, and maybe you're not at a point, you're brand new, you're just ramping up, and you go, boy, if I had the money, I would hire somebody to do this. Write that down so that when it comes time to hire, you have a list of what you want out of a person.
I like
And
that.
that all get a jump on things. Like I said, you don't, once you're frazzled and overwhelmed, that's not, you needed to hire somebody several months ago. But it's all about preparation. And then when you get emails for applicants, you know immediately if you're going to want to hire them or at least move them on in the process. So that's pretty easy. You can take 5-10 minutes, read through emails, and then schedule interviews. And these interviews don't have to be very long. They can be 5 or 10 minutes. As soon as you start talking to somebody, if you want to continue that interview. So I don't see this as a long process once you're ready to hire, but I think definitely start a month or two prior, even, just when you're just, it's a little nugget in your head to say, yeah, I someday I'll need help. That's when you start planning.
I like it. So you know that someday you'll need help, so you get the ball rolling now. That way you're not just in a huge rush and need to hire someone today and then you hire someone terrible because you didn't have time to properly vet them, to kind of start with a few and then narrow them down until the one that's the one.
Absolutely. And sometimes you can go through the whole process and the person turns out they're perfect, they're fantastic, they're wonderful, but they don't work out. And that will happen, but that happens in any business with any job. And you learn from that and then you start all over again.
And so, speaking of that a little bit, as far as like, sometimes you might hire someone and they might not work out, and we kind of have to get rid of them and then start the process over and stuff like that. I'm sure that a lot of people, when this topic of virtual assistants comes up, a lot of people are afraid of just handing out passwords to things to some of these people they're hiring. So, any thoughts on that? Is it just a matter of we kind of have to start them small and after a while we trust them? Or, I mean, what would you say to someone who says, like, I'm afraid of handing over my email password, my PayPal password, things like that?
Right. There is a large amount of trust that goes into this. I have clients that I have logins, passwords. I've had clients give me credit card information to make purchases. It's just a matter of trust. But if I was to come to your office and sit at a desk, you'd still give me that information. I'd still need that information to do my job. So it probably goes back to the hiring portion of it. Do It's due diligence. Do a background check. If you're very suspicious and you're not sure about things, background check. That's easy enough to do. And review people's social media accounts, see if they can supply references from other clients. All of these things are important, but it's definitely, there's a huge amount of trust that has to happen in order to bring a virtual assistant on.
Okay, fair enough. So to do that background check and do those references, and so I mean, in all your travels and experiences and things like that, have you seen anyone make just like a really common but avoidable mistake when it comes to hiring people?
I think most people, it's a time thing. They don't really dig in and find the right fit. And I think the biggest reason they don't is because they're budget driven. That would probably have to be the biggest mistake. There are virtual assistants all over the world. and some will work for $3 an hour, and some will work for $60 an hour or more. And cheap doesn't mean good, and expensive doesn't mean bad, and that goes in reverse as well. Um, but if we're solely focused on, well, hey, this person's doing it for $1 an hour, fantastic, I'm going to hire that person. We rush in, and then you find out it falls apart. That you can't be completely budget driven. I know it's a big consideration. Our budgets are extremely important. I get it, but you can't hire based on rate, because inevitably, well, I don't want to say inevitably, but a lot of times it fails.
So what's the solution there? Like, do you recommend that someone maybe like if they have certain job that they want done, maybe time like write out like how long it would take them, or what they think they would expect to pay someone for that project, maybe on the higher end, so that way when they see these bids coming in, they're not looking for the lowest bid, they're just kind of seeing like, is it on my budget or under budget? Is there anything like that people can do?
I- For me personally, when I do hiring, I need to know it's the right person. It's not. I don't think I have any tested rules, or do I know, like you said, I know how much certain projects take to do. So I can, if I quote a client a rate, I know how much it's going to take, and that makes it easier for me. If a client is really in tune to their tasks, then it's probably better for them for hiring purposes. If they say I have to do social media posting per month, I know it takes me 10 hours a month. Maybe that's $200. And if they're getting posts or submissions for like $50 or $500, you can kind of, gauge that way who you'd like to talk to. But again, that $50 might be fantastic or terrible, and that 500 might be fantastic or terrible. You can't just look at the dollar. That's a start, but then you have to kind of dig in and see how that person ties into your business.
Okay, so it's only one of many factors. It's not the factor.
Unfortunately, yeah, there's a lot that goes into this, or at least I believe there's a lot that goes into this, so that you stick with a virtual assistant for a long time, because they're an integral part of your business. They probably know your business better than anyone else except for you. Some of my clients I've had for 5 or 6 or 7 years, and I know their businesses. And so you really want to have somebody that will have that relationship with you, and see your business grow and be on that journey with you.
And not have to go it alone. Yeah. And
Right.
and so I know that we keep saying that like it's not all about the money or all about the budget and stuff like that, but one thing that really two things that motivated me into doing more of this virtual assistant stuff. Like, I'm still not great at it, I still need to do way more, but two things really motivated me recently within the last month or so to do more of this. And one was that I talked to some friend who had like a full-time virtual assistant, and here I am thinking like a virtual assistant means that like, most of the money just kind of comes in and goes right back out. But this person was saying that they paid him like $300 or something for 40 hours a week. And they did all this great stuff, and it was just a matter of, with the exchange rate, they happened to be in a country where they spoke fluent English, knew all these skills, but because of the exchange rate, $300 was like $3,000 for this person. So that was really great and motivating. And something else that encouraged me was I was gonna hire someone to do a task, and I was thinking, okay, well, I'm not really sure how much to pay for this. I was thinking, like $200 for some kind of task of doing some lead generation research and sending out emails. And then I was like, okay, well, that's just a number, and I'm kind of having a weird frame of mind about, okay, well, $300 that can buy this and this and this. But then I wrote out, I'm like, well, this task would take me 10 hours to do. And so I looked at that as like, well, if I applied my coaching rate to that, it's thousands of thousands. If I brought it down to like the bare minimum I'd work, $1,000. And then I said, okay, well, it would take me $1,000. So now I'd be fine paying someone even, three, four, $500, and then the bid came back at like $65, and I felt like a little weird, like paying so little. But then I was like, well, great. In a way, I'm hiring this person for $6.50 an hour, which like might be a little bit on the low end for them, but they did great work, and it was like a no-brainer kind of purchase. Whereas even just a little while before that in the thought process, I was thinking a few $100s or even $60 was a lot, but then I was able to kind of logically kind of get it back down in there. So any like words of encouragement like that for those people like us who maybe we've been thinking about this virtual assistant thing for like the longest time, we just keep on like thinking it, but any kind of advice like that to like just give us a kick in the butt, give us that motivation to finally go ahead and do it?
Words of encouragement. Just, you have to do it. Jump in and do it. You've already jumped into your business, and that's a much bigger jump than just hiring a virtual assistant. So if you can start a business, then you can hire a virtual assistant.
All right, perfect. So you've already kind of done part of it. Why not follow all the way through and just jump in and do it and see how it turns out? And so we've been talking today about kind of this process of kind of finding candidates and narrowing them down. But I'm sure a lot of people have been listening, thinking like, oh, and it's almost like I've become my own HR department. So you have your team of virtual assistants. So are you guys able to help out in maybe eliminating some or all of this headache in hiring people?
Are you asking if we help with hiring virtual assistants for others?
Well, I'm asking just what do you guys do in general? Because you and I have kind of talked about like, you know, ideas and things people can do, but what is it that you and your team provide for us, so that way we can maybe remove some of these headaches?
Provide as like services or
services, products. What do you have? What kind of offers do you have for us today?
What does my team do? My team does just about everything. I tell you, I have done so much. I love this job because I meet so many people and do so many things. I have done everything from simple customer service and invoicing. I create lead pages. I update websites. We've blogged. We have done cold calling. I actually, one of my first clients, I monitored his dating profiles.
Oh, funny.
So, but he didn't have time. He was so busy with work, he didn't have time to review all of that. So, and that's just one of, a million things that we do. There isn't anything, there's never anything specific. Every one of my clients is different. They all have different needs. And when I first speak with them, we just make a list and let's dig in and see what's the most important. And then we go from there. But because they have all different backgrounds, they have different tasks to do.
Awesome. So you're saying that it's better for someone to meet with you on the phone or something to get that list of tasks, and then that way you can figure out a custom solution for them that your team provides.
Right. The way my pricing goes, I'm really transparent. Everything's on my website. I don't price like a lot of VAs do. I work with small businesses. I work with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, very, very small, and they have very tight budgets. I get it. So I charge by the hour. I don't round up. I don't do blocks of time. When they need me, I'm here. And so I always say, if you need me for 2 hours and 12 minutes, you get charged 2 hours and 12 minutes, because if I was to go to your office and sit there and work, I would only be charging you the time I clock in and clock out.
Gotcha. And I know it's kind of a loaded, maybe even like a messed up question, but about how much can we expect to pay? Like, does this go like down to like $10 an hour and up to $100 an hour? Or like what do people tend to pay you and your team for the things that you guys do?
Our starting hourly rate is $20 an hour. And that's probably a good average. When you get into complex things like project management, that's going to be the rate will be higher for that. If we do a lot of transcription. So transcription is, a totally different animal. So we charge by the audio hour or video hour. So the rates on that are a little bit different, but it's, since I have different clients, the rate will be different based on the demand of tasks.
Okay, great, and that's cool that you kind of have that transparency and break down like how much it'll cost and things we expect to pay and things like that. And so how about your URLs, your websites? If people say, all right, you got me, I'm excited, I'm convinced, I know I need to move into this virtual assistant thing, especially before a disaster happens, so that way I can be prepared whenever things are super busy. Where should people go after listening to our discussion today?
They can go. My official website is yourgalfriday.com. That is your-gal-friday.com. However, if you put a / Robert Plank podcast on that, you are going to get to a special page so that any of your listeners who want to fill out the form on that page there, and we're going to talk. And if they feel like they'd like to hire us, you're going to get a fun discount.
Super great. Well, and any discount's good, but if it's fun, then that's like a nice little cherry on top. So people should go to your-gal-friday.com / Robert Plank podcast. Go there, fill in the form to claim your fun discount, and then get to talking with Andrea so that you can figure out like what's going on in your business. So that way you're not doing all of this stuff yourself. You're not holding yourself back. You're not switching gears and just, waiting for just one person to do it. I mean, imagine how long it would take one person to run all the fast food stuff, like you mentioned in that example earlier. If one person had to go and run to the counter and take the order, and then run to the drive-thru and run into the kitchen and run and do the cleaning. I mean, it sounds almost impossible, and it sounds like anyone coming to McDonald's waiting for a hamburger would be waiting about an hour for just one person to run around. But then you add a couple of people on your team, and then now it becomes this well-oiled machine. Now you're freed up to do those more important tasks, to just think. And even if you hire someone and you pay them about the same that you would have been paying yourself, well, then guess what? Now you have the additional time freed up to do even more stuff, and chances are you'll find someone that can maybe do a job faster and better than you. Maybe it's a little bit of a blow to the ego, but faster and better for less money. Why wouldn't you do that? And even if you're even still a little bit hesitant, go to your-gal-friday.com / Robert Plank podcast and just chit chat with Andrea. You have nothing to lose, everything to gain, for her to break it down for you and tell you what you need to do and get you moving in the right direction, and even hiring one of the people on her team. So that way you can even just get just 1 hour a week freed up, and then see that little bit of a boost from there, and then do more and more. So that way you can focus more on what matters, stop spinning your wheels, stop playing catch up, and then get the fun back in your business. So your-gal-friday.com / Robert Plank podcast. And thanks so much, Andrea, for stopping by the show and sharing all this cool virtual assistant outsourcing wisdom with us today.
Thanks, Robert. I'm so glad to be here.
Go right now to marketeroftheday.com / iTunes to subscribe to the show, listen to other episodes, and rate and review the